Gentlemen, we prepared a shortened version of the presentation, just like this light is on, today. And instead, what I'd like to do is put into my own words where Rotozip, how Rotozip started, the history of it, how we got to where we are right now, and the opportunities going forward. And with that, some of you may know the background of Rotozip, some may not. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Rotozip was founded 28 years ago by my wife Becky and myself in our basement of our home. And it started with an idea for extra income for selling bits and tools to do a job better. Now I'll back up a little bit. My background was in construction, and I know I've done electrical work, plumbing, pretty much all of the trades, masonry work. I just grew up in it and learned a little bit about all of it. And one of the jobs I did was hanging drywall, and I learned to do that faster, and I manufactured some bits that I made out of nails, and a lot of people wanted me to sell them to them. And I couldn't keep up with the demand, so I looked for a source to make them consistent, because I was hand making them. So I went to the local, or the closest bit manufacturer in Cumberland, Wisconsin. It was Belkin Drill. And I said, this is what I'm making. I'd like to, make them on a machine, and I'd like you to make them on a machine and replicate this, and so we can make more of them. We did that, and then I had a bit that I could sell. And then they wanted to buy tools from me because I modified the routers that I was using. I went to Milwaukee to get a source for motors and showed the engineers there, and they said they said that they're not into pioneering markets and that they really were not interested, but good luck. I did the same thing to Black & Decker. The president of the company was Mr. Page West, and pretty much got the same thing from him. Then I went to Singer Motor Products Division, who was supplying motors for tools for Sears. And I talked to E.J. Holland there, and he said that he would sell me motors. I told him of my dream. And then what I had to do was come up with the money for the motors and the bits to get started. And my wife, Becky, had a retirement fund that she had started putting into from the state of Wisconsin where she worked. We took that money out. We double mortgaged the house that I had just built. And I told my wife my backup plan was that if I didn't sell one single motor, that I would work on Saturdays on side jobs, and I would pay off this loan in less than 5 years, working just on Saturdays. So we had our plan to get started. I started going from job to job. That was a little slow, so then I thought, well, I'll try mail order, and I'll create a brochure. I have a brochure right here. It was the first one that we made, and my wife Becky and I would go to the Madison Library, and we would copy down with Xerox copies contractors. Started with this drywall contractor for the state of Wisconsin. And we would at night put these brochures and send them out the next day, or send them out in the mail, and then wait for orders to come in. Got all kinds of orders. Well, it did gradually get started that way, real grassroots. And judging by the brochure, I don't know how that ever worked, but that's the way it got started. And one of the things, it was such a great concept that the brochures, no matter how poor they were, it's still when people it was a fairly simple concept, and it really improved the efficiency of the job. Then we started gradually increasing the mailings, and what happened at that time was a lot of the drywallers would move around the country for jobs. And the telephone number, we put a telephone number in the back of all of the tools. And they didn't have patience enough to get bits through the mail, so they would go to their local supply yards and ask for zip bits. And that's where that really was the foundation for the company is the razor blade, so to speak. And they would go to the drywall yards, and the drywall yard would call us up, call that number up, and then we would supply them with bits and set them up as dealers, and that's basically how the network got started. It took a long time, but it worked very well. And that's how it got started. Then Then we got a lot of competition from Porter Cable. They were making bits and going into industrial accounts with salesmen and stuff. And so what I had to do is come up with, I felt as though, a better bit to do the job. That was what I thought the key was, as well as working on another tool. But first thing was first. So I went back to Cumberland, who had been bought out by Hanson at that time, and I started working with an operator to create a better, faster drywall bit. And when I was working with the operator, I said, they were so sharp, they were cutting through the demonstration I was doing with the plastic boxes. So I was trying to dull them up a little bit. And so what I was doing is I was taking the bits in the tool and I was going down through some plywood, 3/4 inch plywood. And it was so sharp, and all of a sudden, with my construction background, I understood I was using this like a jigsaw, but very controllably. And I started thinking of all the different applications. That was the beginning of the new drywall bit, what I call the guide point, and the saber cut bit came out of the same bit. I improved the saber cut bit to make it work even better. And now we had a multi-function tool, and I could demonstrate it a lot of different ways other than just for drywall. So that's when we started doing trade shows. Becky and I would do trade shows around the country, and we would do remodeler shows, kitchen and bath shows, builder shows, a lot of different ones that pertain to construction, and demonstrating, showing, and seeding the market, and showing multi-functions. And gradually, as we started listening to them solving cutting solutions, we ended up with several bits. And we had a bit for cutting tile, and really made it a multi-function tool. That then led to our first break, and that was getting involved with Home Depot. And that led to Home Depot. Home Depot then put us into, that led to getting into Home Depot. And what was I going to say about that? Now we had a multi-function system, a multi-tool system, and a versatile system. And it was applicable to a lot of different trades. That's when we developed the system. We had several bits, we had a circle cutter, and we created a system. And we started selling to Home Depot and some of the, mostly Home Depot, I guess, at that time. And when we did, at one point, Mike Clancy told me to get onto this management presentation because he couldn't be there on the first day. And Pat Farrah was walking back and forth across the stage, and he was talking about Rotozip, and that people were coming into his store and they were asking for Rotozip, and they didn't have anything like that, and they were sending the people to Sears, and it was driving him nuts. And he made a statement that if anybody in this room can bring me anything like a Rotozip, and that was Department 25 he was talking to, And he says, you know, we would be forever in your debt. And I took that very seriously. I thought to my mind, you know, they're trying to get professionals in this store and keyed in on the things that they really wanted to do. And I understood my system, or the Rotozip system, very well, and where it was going. And so I put together a presentation, and later that week when we got our slot, Mike had a whole presentation ready to go, and Jason and I worked the night before, and I said, this guy, I know that if I talk to him, that I can show him a possibility here that's something that's better than RoboGrip. And so we worked on it, and the next day I told Mike, I want to do a presentation. He says, what? And I said, in front of all this, I said, yeah, but I want Pat Fair to be in here because I really want to talk to him. And that, you know, he's going to talk to a little bitty company, come in and listen to a little bitty company. And I said, yes, this is the first time I ever want to do it, and I want to speak to him. And I was really nervous. I had some bullet points I want to talk to, very much what I'm doing today. And I said, I got a chance. He did come in there. Derek Collin was our captain. He was very upset that I wouldn't talk to him about this. And Mike Clancy, I wanted him not to know anything so that he wouldn't stop me for one, and that he could tell him straight that this thing was really a dumb idea. That, you know, I had nothing, that he had nothing to do with it. He could fix it. Anyways, I went off and gave him a presentation that I saw Rotozip as being better than RoboGrip for all these reasons. It's a system. If you get behind this, I know the players out there, I know the trades very well. If you let us demonstrate the product and put it in dumb displays in your stores and really get behind this thing, that every tool that you sell, you're going to get return traffic on all of the accessory bits. And I knew that I'd already gotten enough feedback from a lot of these, you know, the carpenters and stuff that said, you know, there's absolutely, you know, won't go to work unless they have the bits. So anyways, they got behind it, and it really started to accelerate the awareness. And then I started thinking about the RoboGrip thing, and the thing that really accelerated it was TV. And we then had an opportunity to be on QVC, and I got a real first-hand experience about, you know, what kind of numbers can be driven if you create a presentation to QVC. That in turn got me thinking, we could do a short form infomercial or an infomercial type thing and really create the awareness for this system. And I went to Home Depot and talked to Pat Farah and Dick Hamill and Bill Hamlin. And I said, this is what I'd like to do. And I think it'll be like RoboGrip, only you will have the product in your stores, and I will tag the infomercial and say that, you know, everything's available at Home Depot. And they said, it's a good idea. And I said, but I can't afford to pay for it. I would like to get ad funds or, you know, co-op advertising funds that I'm supposed to pay you and use that money to finance this. They said, no way, but you're welcome to go ahead and try the infomercial. Well, I wanted so bad to give Pat what he wanted that I went ahead with it and found a way to come up with the money, and through creative things I've made that infomercial. Well, you understand that the infomercial was very successful, created a tremendous amount of awareness, created all kinds of uneasiness with those, and everybody wanted the product line. That began the evolution then. I want to talk a little bit about the ZipMate. The ZipMate, that started the awareness in a big way. We did not have traditional advertising, but that really started creating awareness. And then we did another infomercial, and I wanted to think about what I needed to say. Then we created a second infomercial because I made the ZipMate. That idea came from, I created the ZipMate. That was so amazing that the infomercial, I can tell you a little bit of the history if you're interested in hearing that, but I can tell you how I come up with the ZipMate. But it is so amazing. There isn't anything out there like it, and I don't even think the infomercial did it justice, because when you use that, you can do things better than you can with any belt sander. You can outperform sanders, belt sanders, regular sanders. You can outperform the regular system. Outperforms jigsaws, recip saws, and hole saws. This outperforms sanders and finishers and cutoff tools. In fact, cutoff tool part, it turns at 18,000 RPMs. There isn't anything out there that you can put a wheel on that's going to turn at that RPM and get the job done. This is just one amazing, called attachment or converter. And we created another infomercial, and it created a tremendous amount of awareness. And it was in 2000, I think, and it just started going nuts. The retailers wanted it, everybody wanted it. It just was something that I just didn't know how to handle. The retailers were demanding that, it was, Home Depot wanted everything that we could make. Lowe's said, why are you supplying them with it? And it was just more than I just, Sears wanted as much as we could make, Home Depot wanted as much as we could make, Lowe's wanted as much as we could make, and I didn't know how to make everybody happy. The salesmen that we had then promised all kinds of things they couldn't deliver, and every one of them were getting upset with me. I didn't know what way to turn. I thought, this is getting out of hand. I can't do this anymore. I went on a search to try and find somebody to replace me. I tried to find a CEO that could do it. I had hired hundreds of struggles. They really couldn't. With the people that they sent to me at that time, everybody was working, nothing came up that really appealed at all. And I said, with all the things that need to be done here, I really don't know how to create the infrastructure. It might be time to sell, even though there's a tremendous opportunity, in my opinion, going forward. So, one of the companies that always wanted to buy or talk about buying us was American Tool, because the bit consumption kept going up, and that it made perfect sense that if I kind of gave them a roadmap that with their infrastructure and all the salesmen and everything they had, that they could really make this thing fly. So I went to Jawad Lewis, who was somebody that was our contact there, and told him that we were ready. And then I told him that we went on this search, and so he said he would talk to the board. Anyways, a couple days later, he calls up and says, "I want to talk to Becky and I." So we got together, and he said, "If you could find the right person to move forward with this, would you sell?" I said, "No, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think the right person to do this. I think I could do it, and I'll give it a shot." So we put together a contract, and I turned over the key. Becky and I turned over the keys basically to Jawad, and I thought that he could do this. And I put down a little roadmap. I wanted him to be able. I gave him several instructions on what needed to be done. Needed to secure better policies and procedures in place. Supply contracts, operating efficiencies, all the things that I felt as though that I couldn't do. I thought he could do this, and with all the pressure that I was under, I thought, I just don't want to do this, and I'll just let him do it his way. I figured, with his background, this won't be any problem. So my son Jason was still there, and I thought, Jason could give me feedback when we talked about it, and he was looking forward to working with somebody, and that that he would work into a higher position down the road. Well, at first it seemed like things were going, the relationships were getting mended, but they started about 6 months into this, or a little more. I started looking at looking at the numbers. And I couldn't believe that, what was happening. And I thought, I asked Jason, and he says, Dad, you need to get back here and take a look at this stuff. And I said, oh. Anyway, during that time, Jason just decided that the only way that I was going to get back into this is if he were to leave the company and kind of force me to come back in and look at this. And I did. I hired a consultant under the guise of a consultant, basically a spy, to come in and help me look for things to find out if things were being done that I had instructed, and they hadn't. I found all kinds of things. I found actually nothing of my instructions were started, and we were in basically the same shape, only worse, because we had spent a lot of money. The company had a lot of inventory, and really didn't have marketing in place, didn't have all these things in place. And so there was no question that the first thing that I had to do was remove Joao Nunes and see what could be done. I removed him, looked at it and thought, this is just overwhelming. Let's go back to the original idea and let's find a buyer for the company, tell them what kind of things that we could do going forward. That's when I tried to talk to Newell, because I thought, for all kinds of reasons, that the accessory program is something that could really be, I always thought that this is a real connection to the customer. This is what you can really do to go forward with this. And I wanted to do a presentation, and that's what I'm doing now. And I really wanted to do a presentation to Joe, because I thought I had, a vision for, what could be done with the brand. And at any rate, Newell had a lot of other things on the table, and they said that really wasn't going to work at this time. And so I knew that I could see the economy was trying to do a number of things, and I thought this needs to be done. So the other one that was really interested in this was Bosch. And Bosch said, absolutely, they've always wanted to buy the company, that this will be done. And they would start to due diligence, and we hired very two representatives, and this is something they've always wanted to do. Long story short, we didn't even look at trying to go beyond Bosch, because I thought it was such a perfect fit. I thought it was the right thing to do. They kind of helped me out and supplying me product and this and that. And I thought, all right, but it started taking forever. 6 months went by, longer. And then one of the things that he said was a problem is the European operation. So I agreed that we would shut that down and take care of that. And I'll explain that later. But I got a call when we were over there. Lou and I did, it really took me by surprise. He said, Bob, I'm really sorry, but they had made the decision that they don't want to do the acquisition of the parent company. And I said, why? He said, for all kinds of reasons, but one is that they said that we didn't have our act together here, and this and that, and it's been a bad year, and all kinds of reasons. And I said, how about for any price? They said, no, they're not interested, but they recognize all the issues that we had going forward, and that they would be more than willing to do another supply agreement with a licensing contract for them. And they asked me if I would sign that, and I took a look at it, and basically what it is an agreement that they would own the company without buying it. You'd have to see the details. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And so there's a little tension right now. At first I said I would, and now I decided that I don't want to do that. So, that was in September. Now, what I immediately did is wanted to put together a strategic plan to find out, with the resources that we do have, before we run out of resources, what can we do? what are the things that we can do? We had some great things. We put together a strategic plan. We identified the things that we could do and what we know what needs to be done from a short term and long term, and shore things up and get things moving again. And so we are going to do that. It would be better to find somebody that would be like a big brother and move this thing forward for all kinds of reasons. There is tremendous opportunity here. The foundation of the brand is very solid. We have the foundation of the brand is very solid. I can show you right here. We have we got fan mail. We've got a database that we use of over 1 million names that we send out surveys to, so that we can get back information. And I can show you countless things about how solid the brand name is in